major economists in positions in India, people through all different parts of the world, in Asia as well, people in Japan and China talking about the need for a new economy. So what you have right now is people are seeing that this whole society, the monetary aspects, the economic aspects, the banking aspects, and as a result of all of that, we have to realign the social aspects.
I have to throw in the allopathic health industry, essentially,
Right.
in terms of how it functions, because or dysfunctions, as the case may be. That dysfunctional element is there as well.
I agree. What it is every aspect of our society right now is imploding. In the case of health, certain kinds of diseases are suddenly not being, under the allopathic system, aren't working properly, are suddenly becoming incurable. Certain aspects of how that system operates, especially in the United States, are suddenly becoming too expensive. We have to suddenly say to ourselves, we have to create a system, not just a health system, but a social system, an economic system, a banking system, a monetary system, and around that, a whole new social system. And this is now what's happening. And what's also happening, which also is kind of interesting, is that we have all these activations going on.
Yes.
So what I see happening is that self-functioning alternatives to what we now see around us are beginning to spring up. Now in very, very elementary forms, like proposals people may make, or in terms of just basic, simple group interactions that are going on. So what we have right now is that we're at the edge of this whole process. So we need now to understand that. And also we have government. Government is not responsive. It's reached a point where special interests, and this is not only in the United States, it's all over the place, have reached a point where how do you make government work? That it's functional according to the original concepts of the principles of this republic, which is a republic based upon the fact that people are supposed to be the basic...
Of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Right.
As opposed to over the people and imposing upon the people, etc.
Right. And, you know, we began this country began with the Declaration of Independence, which listed a whole bunch of tyrannies that were based upon non-representation.
Yes, right.
So we have to understand that we reached that point again. Not only here in the United States, but all around the planet. There's a basic need for a whole new concept of government. We have to expand Republican democracy to a whole new level. We have to look upon the fact that we have a vast amount of information on all different kinds of things which need to be permeated through the society, distributed, and interacted with. In other words, discussions, how do we do things? So how do you do this? Do you just take a bunch of few men and women in government and make them the hearsays of everything? No, you can't do that. It needs to be expanded. And on top of that, you have this, as I said, this massive explosion going on. Right now, every human is having their chakra energy system changed. It's moving to a 13 system. We have advanced explosions going on in our RNA, DNA. We have, originally, there was supposed to be in a fully conscious being, there's about 20 major codexes, which form 64 major combinations. These are now coming online, so that what's happening is our RNA, DNA is waking us up. We're going through changes in our bodies. We're getting a whole new series of ideas. The system that always has seemed to work is not working. And everywhere around there, there's this need for this quiet revolution of massive change. So I see this period right now as a massive time, a massive period of change.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so what is going to happen here is that as people become more active, which will be a natural part of this process, you're going to discover new things happening. And then there are other things going on underground, which to me are the final accelerators of this whole process. So what
and are those some of the dismantling of some of the old stuff? You're talking about the underground stuff, okay.
Right. Because we have, sitting underground, which some countries are beginning to accept, a whole new banking system. We have a whole new monetary system. We have new ways of how people interact with one another and create things called government, or just create things of how do we work with one another. And we have how do we take resources on this planet and work them in a different way.
Well, then you've got technology, for example. And I think that's probably what you're kind of getting at, too, in terms of paradigm shifts on how we go about doing things. For example, producing energy that's whether it's perpetual, but yeah, pulling energy from and using technologies that allow it to be available limitlessly. Essentially,
right. We have the ability for limitless technologies that provide energies, can provide us with a substitute for the aircraft, can allow us to produce materials out of energy and matter, that whatever we want. So we suddenly look at ourselves and we see that these are things that we can do. Plus, there are people that are teaching other people how to be telepathic, how to do certain other minor things which have to do with how to change metals, and et cetera, which is what fork bending is all about. So we're learning that we have these talents, that these latent talents are manifesting. So we have to look at the society as we look around and say, this society is in the midst of the greatest revolution of change in its entire history. And people who look at the world right now say, this has been the greatest time in the entire history of this planet for people interacting with one another. So we now have tremendous social groups going on around the planet which are about change. And these groups are beginning to communicate with one another. This is the one thing that I have at fault with the media, is that the so-called mainstream media has not really gotten into this whole incredible process of how this change is happening. When the greater change hits and causes to look at it in a much different way, they'll take the greater change, which I talk about as a worldwide change in monetary systems, banking systems, and the whole process of wealth, redistributing wealth and debt forgiveness. So when you do these major things, you start seeing that this world is on the verge of things that are so amazing that it seems almost craziness, but it's not. We are actually to the point on the very verge of great change.
And we are at the point of as much time as we have for this show as part of this great conversation with Sheldan Nidle. Sheldan's website is paoweb.com. I didn't mention all of this. He's the author of You're Becoming a Galactic Human, Your Galactic Neighbors, The Journey to Joy, which is a video. He articulates this and many, many other subjects. And this conversation that we had, which we videotaped, there's probably another half hour's worth of discussion. And I will say that as compelling as what you've heard up to now, if it is compelling to you, there is more. And so just know that this video will be available soon on shop.understanding-mms.com. That's my store where I put all my finds or creations. And also, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions that you want to reach me, send me an email to adam@talkforfood.com. I certainly welcome your input and your suggestions. There is much, much more that we are putting together, that some of it we've done already, because we want to help facilitate the awareness that you and I individually need to actually make these types of changes possible. Well, the changes are possible. The point is, whether you and I experience it is up to you and I. And so as we put ourselves in the right frame of mind, right frame of heart and openness, then we've got a better chance of doing it. In the meantime, that's all the time we have for now. Stay tuned to next week. Stay in love. Be yourself. Be well. And we'll see you next week when Talk for Food returns here on WebTalkRadio.net. This is Adam Abraham. I'm out of here.
Talk for Food is a Philos MediaWorks production.